Okay.
That makes everyone a little nervous, but good evening, everyone. My name is Dante Arnwine. I serve as the district manager of Brooklyn Community Board 9. I get the fortunate pleasure of being with the Education and Libraries Committee this evening. I look forward to hearing the good plans of the committee. You know, this board, I think has really turned tides and is really trying to take that next step in terms of, okay, how do we engage with the public? How do we connect with the public? How do we, as a community, look at issues, come up with thoughtful policy that impacts our community for the better? And so, you know, I look forward to listening to your thoughts. I'm on the administrative side, so I'm kind of a ghost. I'm just here, I'm listening. But if there are any questions that come up that fall within my jurisdiction, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Dante. Really appreciate you. Well, I'd like to welcome all to our first meeting for the 2022-23 term. My name is Naomi Baptiste, and I would like to welcome you to our Education and Library Committee for the term. I am so excited to be working with all of you, and I'm so excited of all of you who have decided to join the committee and help flourish our education and library, what's the word I'm looking for? Opportunities or endeavors. So myself, I am a former New York City Police Department school safety agent. I used to work for the police department / school safety agent in the in-service training department and recruit training department. So I am trained to teach police officers and civilian members in anything in policy. I also am a community resident of Crown Heights. I'm also a community education council member for the school district 17 of this lovely community board 9. So I have a plethora of information for different topics, and I always like to work as a team. I never like to work with my own ideas because I have my own agenda, but I like to work with everyone to see how we can work together to make this community thrive. So on that note, I want to talk about house rules. First things first, you have the option of leaving your camera on or leaving your camera off. We can do that. But one of the things that I would really like to stress is that everybody gets a chance to say what they have to say with a complete thought. No, if you have a question or a comment, please let the person complete the thought before you have a question or comment or opinion, due to the fact that everybody does not communicate the same. Sometimes we have some who are very witty, and we have some that are very naughty. So hopefully we don't have any naughtiness here. That's house rule. Secondly, if you have some suggestions on what we would like to do, let me know, and we can work together to make it to come about within our year spectrum. And lastly, this is a very open forum. Everybody's education, information, and experience is all respected. So it doesn't matter where I come from, it doesn't matter where you come from, but we came together to make this community thrive. So those are my 3 house rules. The former chair, her name is Melanie. I forgot her last name, but I'll call her Melanie. She was the chair for last term. And with Melanie, me and her served on the term during the pandemic. And in process, she came up with the day for the Jackie Robinson Day. I am very in, we are very in communication to keep that going. So I've met Miss, I'm sorry, Miss Free. I might be saying your name wrong.
Barry?
She's, yes, you, I'm sorry. Can you tell me again how you pronounce your last name? Hi.
Barry.
Fairy, I met you at the last Jackie Robinson Day. And we were playing baseball with my children and we talked. So I'm very heavily involved in keeping that going. So we want to make sure that everyone in the District 17, public or charter, I don't care what it is, we want all the kids to have the same information. So I know that you're aware of what I'm talking about. So I just want to make that clear that that was something that started in the pre-pandemic, and I want to continue it. So I just want to keep that on board because that is something that's very important. And as we go further along, I'll talk about it more, but I just want to put that out there. So is there any questions, comments, or concerns so far?
I have a question. This is like a process question. Is there a reason we don't have a chat? Like we can't react or share things in the chat?
Yes, there is a reason that we don't have a chat. Unfortunately, there are actors who don't know how to use the chat appropriately. And so, the chat gets inundated with nonsense. And so it's not used as efficiently as it could be. And so we decided at a general board meeting to continue to do meetings without it because of the productivity that we saw with not using it.
Got it.
That's Dante's role, not mine. Sorry, I couldn't answer that one. Is there any more questions or comments or concerns so far?
Can you tell us what the Jackie Robinson Day was and when it was held, just so we can get an idea of what the last
Beautiful.
year's activities were?
Beautiful question. I gladly appreciate it. Working? Not yet. It'll be working in a second. The Jackie Robinson Day, it's held in April. I believe when I spoke to her, I believe she said April 15th. And it is to represent Jackie Robinson as a major league African-American baseball player. Also to let the neighborhood know, children know, that the Everfield complex used to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, some of Mega Evers, all of that used to be the big baseball field, the Brooklyn Dodgers baseball field, before those buildings were there. Yes, that's correct.
That's correct, yes. And the home plate is there.
Yeah, so Jackie Robinson played there, and to make people in the neighborhood aware of this part of American history that might not be aware of. So when it first started, the first year, she had a trolley that went through, she got in contact with some people with a trolley to go through the neighborhood. That was for the first year. The second year, she had, it was at school, I believe the W.E. Boyce School. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know it's on, where it is. You can help me, whoever knows if they've been there. It's
this
it's a
past
school.
year?
Go ahead.
Is that
Yeah,
what you're talking
last year,
about?
yeah.
Yeah, it's at the Jackie
Yes.
Robinson School on McKeever Place,
Oh,
right
thank you.
across from the Ebbets Field
Thank you.
apartment.
Thank you so much. And this lovely lady that added some stuff, they had someone who was showing children how to do baseball. Like if you never did baseball, they had a net in the gym. They had bats and someone was pitching. They had coloring for the children. T-shirts were made. There was a documentary played in the auditorium about Jackie Robinson. and some other activities that were there. So I just would like for myself, because I was made chair, that I want that to continue for the next year. So that's what it was.
I wanted to piggyback off of Maureen's question. Is it okay if I call you Maureen?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. So she had asked why there wasn't why we don't have chat anymore, and my question was if we do have any further questions, like if we think about any further questions, how can we reach out to Dante or yourself?
Well, you can email me. I'm very email flexible. I'm very call flexible. So if you want, we can do all of that. We can start that now since that question is on the floor. So my email is going to be my first name, Naomi, Naomy, and my last name together, Baptiste, Baptiste 6 @gmail.com. And we can have, because we only once a month, we can have an ongoing conversation about a lot of different things if you have questions, and we can chat through there for the month if that's okay with everybody. Does everybody agree? Is everybody okay with that?
Thank you so much. Yes.
No problem. My question is everybody okay with chatting through the month with email? Hello? Yes? Is
Yes.
it true? Yes.
Yes, it's
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so there's some
Okay.
administrative
Okay.
processes that have to take place before all this happens, so it's smooth due to personal information. So
Mhm.
this is good. I will reach out to the law department to see how we can do this as easily as possible, because we're obviously going to be sharing email addresses and personal information. So once I get that settled, which should be
Okay.
very quick, we can set up that. Your committee can set up that group thread and then
Okay.
move forward.
Okay. Okay.
Hi,
Yeah, but that's why you here for all the legalities. You go ahead.
can I ask a question?
Oh, you can.
Hello. Hi, my name is Karen
May I
Shaw
ask you
Taylor.
that?
How are you?
Oh,
Sorry,
nice
I
to
was
meet you.
moving.
You didn't get to introduce yourself.
I did
You didn't
not.
get to, so you go ahead now. Go ahead. Go ahead.
My name is Karen Shaw Taylor. I'm actually a guidance counselor
Uh-huh.
at Brookline in Brooklyn in District Community
Okay.
Board 8, actually. Um, but
Beautiful.
my question is, I know, and you just asked about the chatting through um, email. Is it possible to, because I get bombarded with a lot of emails, is it possible
Sure.
for a WhatsApp chat to begin? Because I respond a lot better
Sure.
with
Sure.
WhatsApp
Uh,
chat
Dante,
than
Okay. Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Dante.
Yeah. So it's a great question. It's going to be the same process because we would then be sharing phone numbers, which is identifiable. So let me reach out to the law department to see if I can get a finite answer on the WhatsApp to see exactly if there's like any limitations with that. I will note that just to be as transparent as possible, if a WhatsApp is if you do form a WhatsApp, all of the information on that WhatsApp plus possibly your phone numbers is foilable. So I just want to make that note that someone could foil that information. But I will check in with the law department to see what avenues we can take to do this as smooth as possible.
Google Voice has phone numbers where you can set up Google Voice
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
can
yeah.
communicate. And it's not your phone number, it's not your email address. It's it's
Right.
just out there with a Google Voice. So maybe if you can look into something like that, I have that type of setup with my school because, as you can imagine, parents bombard me. So I need a cutoff time for everyone, right? So
No,
maybe if
and
everyone,
that's and And
but I
that's
can, we can still.
understandable, but right, no, I understand that, but just to reiterate what Dante is saying, and for myself, um, we, I only can do what he says because
Right,
he
I
is the
understand legality.
administrative party. And yeah, and we have to adhere to those things because of that. So I totally understand. I get it, but I have no control over it. If I did, I would say
Totally
sure,
understand.
but I
Right,
don't.
totally understand. But why I suggested the Google
So
Voice is that everyone can have a Google Voice number and it doesn't identify anyone.
right,
So it doesn't identify
right,
your
but
actual phone number.
that
Right. Yeah.
right. No, I understand, but like I said, we for me, I like to always do what the consensus want to do. Because what's easy for me might not be easy for somebody else. So I thank you, and that's I love it. But legalities, girlfriend, legalities. Sorry. But nice to meet you, and I'm loving that. Animal print. Okay, sorry. Is there anything else from anyone? Yes, no, maybe so. I'm gonna take that as a no. So moving forward, I have a couple of ideas, and some things that I would like to work on. And I just want to know what your emphasis is, because I don't believe in wasting people's time. It's 7. The time is 7:30, and all the formalities of the certain parts like secretary, recording notes, and things of that nature. We have to get to that too, but if we can't, we'll discuss it as soon as Dante tells me what we can do, and we can get back before the next month. Um, uh, there's 3 goals that I have for this committee, and it's a suggestion. It's nothing set in stone, and you tell me what you think. So first one, it's long term, is a literacy program, reading program developed from the Education and Library Committee. So what is everybody's opinion or 2 cents on that? Don't all jump in
Hey.
at once.
No,
Hi,
of
Green.
course. Hello, everyone. I'm Kyrie Aline. Hi, Naomi. And
Hello, sir.
hi, everybody.
Hello.
Yes, so I'm Kyrie Aline. I'm member at large here in the CB9 Executive Committee. And first off, I think that a literacy program would be great. I would just like to ask a little bit more info about it. Can you tell us a little bit more details? What do you have in mind? And who would it directly affect?
Sure. Okay. Well, because we're in the Education and Library Committee, the premise of the children that are under in our committee, supposedly it's all children, but there's 2 committees within the CB9. So the first committee is Education and Library, which services from 3K to high school. Then the Youth Service Committee goes from high school and to age 24. You correct me if I'm wrong, Dante, please, Jet.
You're fine. Yep. Keep going.
Okay, great.
Yep.
So, thank you. So, I've been doing a little research with District 17, the district that where we hover, and with District 17, there's a few schools, public schools, that I have asked, that I found some information of, that are not at the median rate of literacy, meaning that the median rate is 50%. I did some research on about maybe 25% of the schools in District 17, and most of them, the highest rate is about 42% public school wise. I'm not sure why that is. I don't know why that is. So that's why I wanted to make it one of our goals at committee. There's some other things that I have in mind that can help with that, but I wanted to, I love to work with collaborations. I think you learn a lot in collaborations. So I just wanted to bring that, and I hope that answered your question, but if it haven't, I can go deeper into it, but I hope I answered it. I don't want to give too much all at one time.
Naomi, are you referring to the, like the state test scores, like proficiency levels that just came out?
No, I'm going off of what I've researched in regards to just literacy as a whole in the district. I'm not saying any particular, like I've looked at a couple of public schools that are here. I didn't do all of them. I didn't do charter as well. I didn't look at the 3rd grade levels. I didn't get that deep to it. But from what I'm seeing, and my son's school is also, because my son goes to school in the community. It's the reading level is it's not where it's supposed to be proficiently for the median. So I'm not sure. I can't say about the 3rd grade, all the 3rd grade information, because I didn't go through it. And it's really, to be really transparent, it's really bothering me because I have a 4th grader and he was in 3rd grade last year. So in 3rd grade, I found out that he had a 1st grade reading level, but I wasn't aware of that until March of 2022. They didn't tell me in September of 2021. So for me, that's of importance because he's being passed along and he's going to the 4th grade, and he might become overwhelmed because I gave him an evaluation and he doesn't have any issues or any disabilities to say that he can't suffice the reading. So for me, that's a problem for me as a parent. So I feel that because I'm going through it as a parent, there might be other parents that might be doing the same thing, and they do not know how to articulate to the school on the kind of help that they need because of certain programs that are not available in District 17. So.
Thank you for that, Naomi. I actually I have a question, just as a
Sure.
new board member.
Mhm.
I'm kind of, I have like a very basic, backing up a couple steps. I
Mhm.
actually would love to better understand the purpose of this committee and sort of
Oh, sure.
what, before we get into the goals,
Sure.
obviously I understand like the general work that we're doing, but
Sure.
I would love to kind of just get a bit of a grounding and sort of like, what is our purpose here? What is the role that we're trying to serve?
Well, great question. I'm glad you asked it. I'm very glad you asked it. Well, first, in 2019, 2020, this committee was reformed. So it had just started. I was as a committee resident. I was there as a committee resident, and everything was basically brand new. So the person that was presiding over it, his name was I call him Mr. Real. I forgot his last name. Plumes, I believe. But Real Plumes was the Dante, you can stop me anytime I'm making a mistake. I just want to be clear. I want to be clear. Mr. Real had started, he was the first chair of the Education and Library Committee. So there was a premise to start with education, anything that needs help with education, and also include the libraries, because libraries provide education, and from what I've learned, the libraries provide the education, and also libraries are struggling as well. So they combined it. So it was basically starting from scratch as a new committee. So what you could do, there's some Melanie, who was the last chair, she provided me with some links of some agendas from last year when she was chair. And there also are some YouTube video from when we first started in 2019, like around the pandemic, right before the pandemic. So if you're really interested, you can see some of our meetings and till present now, because this also will be on YouTube as well. So you can see the meetings, how we flourished from that time to this time. So when we first started, we had a lot of educators in the beginning. We had one who was a literacy teacher. Her name was I believe her last name was I forgot her first name, but her last name was Farrow. And we had started we did a book giveaway. So she had resources to give out books on Nostrand Avenue in front of the community board, because most of the children, because they were not in school, they were losing reading, losing this, losing that. So she had a resource where she had a plethora of books and just was giving away books. And we stood outside, and we have a Instagram page for Education and Library as well. So that was basically the start. There were some ideas about spelling bees, stuff to elevate education in the community. But as I said, that was the first from 2019, 2020. So Melanie was the second chair, and she gave me some links on certain things that were some material that she took, and she gave me links for that. So I'm going back from what she had before, so we can stay on the same page moving forward. So what I'm learning is that now that this is the third term or third chair, that so to say, we can come up together with what we want to do to bring up education and in the and the libraries. So one of my ideas that I have is that there's a fundraiser, and it's called a readathon. And in the readathon, you can I would like the PTAs, the Parent Teachers Associations of the schools, and also the parent associations of the schools to participate in this readathon that encourages reading and gives children prizes to read and raise money to read. I feel that literacy is the foundation of everything. If you cannot read, you can't do a lot of other things, such as word problems, such as learn how to do certain things. And I just think that that's something that should be addressed. There's a lot of people who don't know how to read, and they cover it every day because they're ashamed they can't read. So that's one of my goals. But like I said, it can go whichever way we want to, as long as the goal is education. The reason why I said the readathon, because we can get the library involved with getting some books for the children to read, or encourage reading more for the community. So I mean, we can go from it's only 3 years old, so we can do a lot of things. It's a toddler. It's just like your baby.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So will we be supporting schools, and does the community board have funding to help support schools?
Dante?
Yeah, great question. No, a community board, we are a very small agency. We barely have funding in all. And if you've been following the news today, you'll know that the mayor just asked us to cut that funding. And so, we as an agency, we aren't I guess, the arm to provide those things. What the community board is really meant to be is to be the community forum where people come, meet on a routine basis, discuss issues at hand, whatever they may be, and then hopefully formulate recommendations where the full board will vote on, and hopefully larger city agencies will adhere to, or at least try to adopt said policies. Community board is advisory. And so, we don't have much legal power, but we have a lot of recommending power. And so we have to be very strategic how we go about advocating for things in the community. I think that this this committee itself, someone had kind of asked, what's the purpose? I think that one of the biggest purposes of the committee is to be flexible, right? The needs in the community are always shifting. And as we can hopefully continue to address some of the needs are going to continue to shift. And that's where this committee really comes in. I think that there's a lot of expertise on this board, likely in this committee. Probably, I think I heard there's principals, some teachers, a lot of folks that are coming from all over the educational field. And so this is really an opportunity to put all that expertise and knowledge into one place and come up with our agenda. When I say our community agenda for what we think our community needs. No one knows what's best for its community than the people who are living in it, right? And so this is the forum where we can hopefully mold those ideas, come up with recommendations on a larger scale. And hopefully elected officials and the larger agencies will adhere to some of them and adopt some of those practices.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
I have a question. I'm wondering if we have a way of like gathering input from the community. Like if we are serving schools or serving as a place to connect community members, like how are we, surveying PTAs across the district, or, bringing together educators. I'm just wondering, we've done stuff in the past, like we've done Jackie Robinson Day and a book giveaway, but I don't think it's ever been in response to like a need that the community has identified. And I don't know if we've like really listened. Not that we haven't listened, but I don't think we've really given people a chance to voice what the needs are.
Well, what we can do, and Dante, you can help me. What we can do is that we can come to a conglomerate as a team for the committee, come up with a Google form, and then present it at the general board meeting to see if that's something that we can do. Now, when I do know about forms, they usually answer questions for people, right? So you'll say, do you need so-and-so, or, multiple choice of what they need. So it really comes down to there are different ways that we can approach that. Because I'm with the Community Education Council, I have access to the President's Council, which is all the presidents of the PTAs. So we can invite the President's Council's president to come to one of our meetings and ask her her name is Veronica Clark. We can ask her, what are some of the concerns that parents bring to her? And that can help us to figure out what we can work with at that time. Yeah, go ahead, Dante.
Yeah, if I may. Listen, I think that, we're, just as a government, we're constantly exploring new ways of engaging people, right? As I've mentioned, this is a very small agency. We don't have the luxury of having rosters of people's phone numbers and addresses like DOF, right? Mm-hmm. And so the only way for the community board itself to engage is for the members and the committee resident members to bring people to the fold, right?
Mhm.
Something that we have is, we have a weekly e-blast, and I will say that has been something that's been very nice for a lot of people. Our listserv has grown substantially. So we know that people are getting information, but we still need to connect people to it, right? One of the biggest things that we hear is, and we know this, not every person has access to technology. Not every person has a laptop, not every person has internet. And so we have to try to figure out how can we still connect with people who don't have these services. So
Right.
some way, one way that I kind of feel that we've kind of lost touch with is word of mouth, right?
Mhm.
We live next to people. I mean, think about who you live next to. Do you know your neighbor? How well do you know them, right? Do you
Mhm.
speak to them on a daily basis, right? Or
Mhm.
weekly basis, right? So like
Mhm.
how we disseminate information is going to take more than just the board office, right? We may have to, if you live in a large building, you might have a tenant association. We might have to have a liaison within the tenant association who can get the information. If you're a part of a PTA, a parents association, right? You might be the liaison for that specific school, right? Wherever you fit into the fold, you might be able to serve that capacity. But we try.
You have to wait.
Yeah, we try our absolute best to connect people, right? If you can think of hopefully free ways of us being able to advance, our public engagement, listen, I'm all ears, right? But what it's going to take a team effort. A lot of people ask for, flyering and things of that nature. I hear that, but like as an office staff, we're required to be in the office, right? So like if no one's in the office, then the office doesn't run. So our job is to keep that office going so the board fulfills its responsibilities. So maybe committee members can do a little flyer here or there. If they go to church on Sunday, give out flyers there. If they go to synagogue, go give out flyers there, wherever it may be, right? But it's going to take all of us to connect people who don't have the resources right now to be able to do things as virtual as we're doing it now.
Okay, sounds great. Any more questions, comments, concerns?
Can I just add, Naomi, I thought your point about literacy was really quite important, and the fact that it was personalized made us understand it even more. So thank you for that. I think that we're hearing two different approaches. One is, as you mentioned, Naomi, which is the approach that I would like to take as well, is to be more active in trying to formulate programs that address certain needs. Another approach is trying to make recommendations to politicians to take certain action. Surely both are needed. So even though I said I advocate the first approach first, I do think that both are needed. But I also think that the idea is that we have to understand what we're working with. And Naomi, to a certain degree, you understand because it's an issue that you've already looked into and understand by some research. But I think that it's also important that we learn what is going on in the district. I am not a parent. Some of us probably aren't. And I didn't even go to public school in New York. So I don't have the real feel of what goes on in New York schools. I do, however, know that the schools in our neighborhood are some of the lowest performers in terms of the rankings of the city. And I think we need to have that information to better understand what's going on in the community, because if we don't understand that, then it's going to be hard for us to even think about either programs or making recommendations to elected officials. So that's one of the things. And I can obviously do some research on the Department of Education or the Board of Education website and try to see what kind of information I can find. We may have to ask the board, not the board, but the district manager's office for help in that regard as well. But I think that may be one thing that we should all be cognizant of what's going on in our community, so we can at least think about programs that may address literacy is one. I guess I didn't think of it in terms of literacy, but that's what it is, reading for kids and to bring them up to standard. But, I don't think we as the education committee, it's only 12 of us on the call, can solve all the problems of the community, that's for sure. But at least we can see if there's certain programs or things we want to address, it, whether or not it's a bookathon or whether or not it's having some special programs, if we can find some way to have either volunteers or funding. But I do think we need to understand a little bit more about what the issues are to be able to even recommend programs that make sense. So that is what would be a start, but I understand that some of it is a Herculean effort and things that may not be easily addressed in this type of committee. So that's why we have to be very judicious about what types of projects we want to put our attention in, because I think all of us are either working or have kids and things. And so we need to really be very targeted about how we use our time. And also, I think all of us want to make sure our time is well spent. So those are that's just a little bit of my thoughts on it. And I don't have a whole lot of solutions. My first thing was to really understand the baseline. I was thinking about perhaps having like a science day where we invite, some science teachers to have programs on a Saturday or something like that, really extracurricular. But the literacy is probably even more important than extracurricular, because Naomi's so right. If kids are not able to read up to grade level, then things are very difficult for them, to say the least. So I'll start doing my own research and try to brainstorm a little bit with myself about things that I think may be helpful, but I'm not exactly sure how we move forward, but those are just some of the ideas that I have as a start.
Girl, can I give you 2 claps? I give you 2 claps.
Thanks, Naomi.
No problem. No, and it's very listen, I understand a lot of what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying. But the thing is that the thing is that because I have a son in this school district, because I had worked with the school, NYPD School Safety Division, where people with children are arrested for different things because of not being able to read or understand things in the classroom, and become a disturbance where it leads up to, and it can lead up to an ultimate arrest on their record. Because I have been a trainer of adults, that sometimes adults don't understand what kids go through, because we're all from different generations, different backgrounds, different areas, and some people tend to don't care. They really don't care. I'm gonna be very transparent. They don't care. They just care about what works for them. So because I have 2 children in the public school system, one that has autism, one that doesn't, I know that I would love to have people that I have a real good rapport with to come to our meetings to explain what it is, so people can understand from all perspectives of what's really going on, that people don't know how to articulate to a certain degree because of their because, to be honest, they don't have any time. If you're working and you're taking care of your children, who has time for volunteerism? Because this is volunteerism. This basically is volunteerism. Some people use it as a platform to up on their resume to get a better job. I'm very transparent with a lot of different things. So I'm just saying that we have to be clear. If people do not understand, I don't have a problem with explaining to them in this meeting or outside of the meeting what we can do as a team together, because there's no I in team, but there's me in team, but there's no I in team, right? So one of the things too, as with District 17 that I know, I can't really speak on the charter school aspect, as Maureen can, because you know she is just such, I love her. She's such a gem. She was so nice at the Jackie Robinson Day. So I just saying for the public school, with the Community Education Council that I'm on for District 17, we addressed a lot of the problems. So there are a lot of problems with literacy. There's also a lot of problems that they do not have in this district, District 17. They do not have a lot of programs for special ed. So with autism, deaf kids, dyslexia, literacy, behavior management, they don't have that in this district. So a lot of our children are leaving the district because they don't have the resources that are provided in this district. So before I became on the community board, I was working with community council, with the Community Education Council, and my son does not go to school, and my older son does not go to school in this district because they didn't have a NEST program or a special ed program that provided the resources for him. So as I came on, I worked with a team to bring more programs to the community. So I'm very happy to tell that there are 3 resources here for children who have disabilities. They have a District 75 program and MS 61 that they didn't have before. They just came after the pandemic. And PS 91, they had no use of a trailer, and the trailer is housing children who have outgrown their educational status to continue so they can get their high school diploma. So if we need an explanation, if we have time for that, that'll be on a different platform that we can speak off this air, because I respect everybody's time. So with that, it's 8 o'clock.
I think that Elizabeth has a question.
Okay, go ahead, Elizabeth.
For a minute.
Actually, I don't have a question. I just wanted to add to the discussion about the literacy. I definitely agree, and not just in District 17, but I think overall, especially in the public education system, there's been a really, really big fall with literacy, and also just like basic comprehension and like even like basic math that I've seen. And it's honestly because of the pandemic. It's really evident that learning online did not help at all, and diminish the amount of education that was being processed. With that being said, I think it's a really complex issue to address because like you mentioned, parents are super busy with work. A lot of times when they come home, they're giving their children more technology, and then that's not really addressing the issue because, you know, we're all worn out, we're all burnt out, we're all tired, exhausted. So it makes sense. However, seeing as we're connected, you know, we're doing education and library, I think it would really be great to incentivize library visits in some way, and maybe create like you were saying, different events there. Maybe like on the weekends, have something fun happening that is kind of put together by the community that makes not only the kids want to go, but the parents want to go as well. So that parents will actually take their kids to the library, because I mean, I got lucky. My dad took me to the library as a kid, but a lot of parents are not going to take their kids to the library. That's not their idea of fun. So I think if there's a way to, you know, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, I think that's definitely something we can go after, and definitely determining the literacy with testing is the first step, but making sure that these kids are following up at home and getting the help they need is a big second step.
Thank you so much. Well, I have an idea for fun. One of the fun things that I would love to, an event that I feel real passionate about is having a high tea event. So I don't know how many girly girls or, you know, are on this committee. I have a son. I don't have any daughters. but I like being girly girl. So I was thinking for the public school, we can have an event for high tea where people come out, they get dressed in their nice gloves and nice silverware, and we have a nice tea event with children and adults. And then for the junior high school kids, I would love to have a plan for a debutante ball. The reason why is because we want to, if anybody is not aware of what a debutante ball is to premiere and introduce to society. So I would think that for junior high school, I would love to premiere and introduce the junior high schoolers to the community board 9, whoever wants to participate. And the boys get dressed up, the girls get dressed up. We can come up with a whole event, and that can be done during the Easter springtime, and have something dressed up, because I think we've lost a lot of etiquette in years, not just this year, I mean years, where people don't know how to have the communication at the table. People are on their phones. They're looking down at their phones, and they're sitting there and they're texting each other across each other. Very, no. And I'm not saying anyone here does it. I'm just saying that I know it happens because some people do not have the communication skills to fulfill what they want verbally. Nonverbal, excellent. Verbal, down the drain. So I would really like to have an event. This might be short term, it might be long term, it all depends on where we want to go. So those are a couple of ideas, but like I said, I don't want to give everything so much to swallow in one day, because this is just introduction. So if you have any ideas, gladly. But my last event, if we can, for togetherness, is to have a community battle where we battle other community boards in a talent show or a fashion show. Yes, fierceness. So, or a kids talent show or an adult, mixed kids and adults, where we have a talent show to distribute your community's talent. So since Community Board 8 was mentioned by one of our committee members, maybe we can battle Community Board 8 in a talent show or a fashion show. And the premise was to have, we have our seniors, but we don't tell what their ages are, because depending on how good you look, you don't know how old you are. But everybody that comes, we can make it something where they're over 40, and then we have one for under 40 or whatever. Because you don't know people's ages these days. So that's something that I wanted to do for fun. And we could talk about that, and it'll be like an education premise, because we don't, Dante said it. We don't know our neighbors anymore. It's like a revolving door. First you see one person in the building, then they moved, and you don't see them no more. Or you have another person who never comes outside. When they come outside, you still live here. So that's just a couple of ideas. I don't like I said, I don't want to give too much on the first day. This is the first date. I don't want to give y'all everything. I just want coffee and tea. That's it. I don't want no clothes or a car. I'm just joking. So anyway. So is there any other questions, comments, concerns? How does everybody feel about a couple of ideas that I've thrown? And you can give me some of yours as well.
Well, I was going to say,
Go ahead.
please go ahead, Karen.
Hi. So, when talking about literacy programs,
Yeah.
I want to say that, something that I would like to see happen, and, still in keeping it fun, is a program where it's literacy time into work, in making our students understand why literacy is important and how it ties into work, right? Why is reading important? And with whatever job that anyone does, whatever career they do, how did literacy tie in? Because I think we need to start making our children understand the importance of literacy in the workplace. right? So even if you are a dressmaker, you've got to be able to either read a pattern, read, and design the pattern, read the instructions, directions. If you are a chef, you still need to do it. So from the smallest job to the biggest job in finance, you need to do. So in talking about programs, I understand doing a high tea, and I love high teas, by the way, love them. But how do we tie literacy into it? So I mean, if we are uh, education and literacy program community committee, that's what I'd like everything to be tied back into. Whatever we do, it would be tied back into literacy in making the community aware. One of I've listened to some of the things you said with parents, and I'm sorry, I don't know anyone's names right now. Where they talked about parents being tired. Oftentimes I find that parents need training in parenting. How do we parent? How do we work with our children? Oftentimes that's the problem, is that they don't know how to parent. That's why they don't know that, hey, taking your child to the library is important. Why is it important? So making the parents understand how literacy is important in their lives. How do we tie all that in? So that's something that I would love to see us um, think about. I'm just putting a think about it, and I would love to work on something like.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I also have something else because y'all just, I've loved y'all already. Y'all got me already. The what you said about the high tea, that you love high tea. What we can do is that we can come up with something where we have a parents retreat also, where it can be kind of a parent training. So, I mean, these are all things that are going to it might not take this year's committee, it might take next year's committee, but those are long term. So, I understand that the title is education and library. Wait, it's education and library. I understand that. But to get these things, we have to be present. So like we're saying a lot of good ideas, but the same people that are giving these beautiful ideas, I hope they come to every committee meeting and show up. And when it's time to show up, we show out. So I'm glad you said what you said. I am a very hands-on person. I'm available at all times. Dante can attest to this. So if you tell me that if we come up with a collaboration and we decide what we want to do, I promise you it will get done. But I'm only one person. We have to work together on this. So if we're gonna make some ideas, I'm just throwing some ideas out there. Want to see what people are thinking. And once we start getting into the nitty-gritty, I hope to see that same confidence in the opinion that you're making, that you're there to do the work as well. So I don't have because I'm a worker. I don't really like to talk too much. I'm an action person. So if we coming up with these things and we start to set something in stone, I'm so passionate about this. I really hope that your mouth can meet the buck. I really hope. So like I said, I don't want to hold nobody time. Is there any questions, comments, or concerns? Because we end at 8:30. So I don't want to hold you to 8:30 because a lot of people got to go to bed and go to work tomorrow. So
Jamie has hand raised.
go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah, thank you, Naomi. I totally double tap what you were just saying. And I think something to think about as we're kind of going through this too is who's doing some of this work that's kind of similar to what you're describing, and how can we work alongside some of these folks? Because it was some high schools, middle schools, they have clubs and groups that the principal may be running or a grade level team might be doing, that we can kind of jump into some of this to where it's not something that this community board's doing, but that we are doing it alongside other folks. And I'm wondering how we can sort of figure out some of that information to where we can see where we're not doing all the heavy lifting. We're all doing some of the lifting in that space because it can't be one person. We all know that. We've seen anything that's ever been done well. It's been done with a lot of people doing a little bit. So how do we do that? And that's what I'm kind of thinking about right now too, is like a lot of these ideas that we've talked about. I know one of our city council person that covers a lot of our district was a former teacher and is heavily into literacy, Rita Joseph. And so how do we then also bring in like their head of education committee and they're our city council person? How do we have them come into this a little bit too and just see, is there a literacy program that they're trying to push that we can jump into? I'm not sure, but I'm curious if there is and how we can kind of lean into that. So then we're not creating a thing that then is going to kind of compete or whatever. So for attention, for resources and all the other things. So I love the ideas, and I'm also thinking like, how do we like then figure out who's doing something similar for us to then partner with on that? So
Well,
thank you.
no, I love it. Yes, girl, yes. Okay. All right. First off, the Community Education Council that I'm on, I have met a lot of beautiful people. So if we like, we can have the PTA President's Council president come to one of our meetings. We can do that. We can invite some principals to our meetings. We can do that. We can get our assemblymen. I can do my best to get that. So, I mean, these are things that, because I'm very excited that you said all those things. And I do know, I have a lot of nice people that I've met along my journey. And you know, I'm not finished yet, but I've met that we can talk to about getting those things. So like Rita Joseph, as you stated, right? She is the head of the chair of the education committee, right? She's also a person in our district. So I think she would be very glad to talk to us in literacy, as well as Crystal Hudson. I believe she would love to be in our part of our program. I believe that Farrah Lewis, who's another assembly member under District 17. See, because what I'm saying is that because we cover a district, we have multiple assembly members that are in the district that cover different areas. So for my area, we have Senator Zelnor Myrie. He's someone that comes to the Community Education Council meetings, or has a representative that comes to our meetings, that we can talk to him and have them come and represent in this community board meeting. Also with Crystal Hudson, I met her at a community cleanup for CB9. So I have a rapport with her assistant that can come with a representative to our meeting to get those information. So there's some people nice people that I have met that we can come and invite to our meetings so we can get a handle on, first, what have you done already? Second, how can you help us? Thirdly, where are we having the program? Where's the program gonna be? Is it gonna be over here? Is it going to be in Flatbush? Is it going to be in Crown Heights? Is it going to be in Lefferts Garden? Is it going to be here? And then we can start to understand who will be able to help us not reinvent the wheel, give us more parts on how to make the wheel better for the snow, better traction for the snow, or less traction for the summer. So, I mean, these are things that, and I can even have the president from Community Education Council from District 17 come, as well as the superintendent that I have a rapport with, to come to our meeting as well. So there's a lot of people that I have a good rapport with that can come to the meeting because I have developed these relationships with these people. So what I can do is that if that's what we want to do, and we can find out by second meeting, whatever, you know, we can go through all the formalities of secretary and all of that lovely stuff. But I mean, I just wanted to meet everyone and kind of get a feel of what you want, what anybody wants to input, suggest, create. in education and libraries. So now that I have a feel, then we can start to get to work as soon as possible, because June will be here before you know it. You'll be very surprised how quick it comes and how quick it goes. So if we want to have people to come in and talk about what they have, what they can contribute to what we want to do, I don't have a problem with that either. We have, Dante gave me a resource for the Crown Heights Library, which is located on New York Avenue between Empire and whatever that other little block is. Dante, help me. I don't remember.
In between, it's on Lefferts.
Well, that too.
Lefferts in New York.
Yeah, that too. That too. But it's called the Crown Heights Library. We also have in our vicinity in Community Board 9, we have the Eastern Parkway Library that's located on Eastern Parkway between Utica and Schenectady. And then we also have the Grand Army Plaza Big Library that's there. But our smaller libraries are struggling. So what we could do is that Dante did provide me with a resource to speak to the head librarian. Dante, correct me if I mess up, let me know. He gave me a resource, and I'm going to call her, and we can see how we can circumvent with the Crown Heights Library. The Eastern Parkway Library, I believe they're doing construction, so they're not as open. But we can start there if y'all like, and I can start working on that now. So by second meeting, I can give you who's available and who's not.
Madam
that's
Chair,
okay.
Madam Chair, I just want to acknowledge that there are some hands that have been raised.
So to help me, because I don't see that part.
Ms. Ferry?
Cool. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to share like a couple things that folks have said and some of what you said, Naomi. I think like a lot of people have said, like literacy is a big, could be a priority that we take on. And I agree with Jamie that there are things happening in the district. There are positive things happening. There are initiatives happening, and it would make sense to partner with a school or a group of parents from a PTA so that we have, we're taking part in work that's already happening and maybe elevating it in some way. And then I forget who said this, maybe Elizabeth. But I love the idea of like centering our work in the libraries in some way and like bringing kids to the library in some way. And maybe it's like, not that we could host or fund like big social events in the library, but if there were something like a career fair or a high school fair for middle schoolers, and like something social that drew in kids and families, like that could actually be really impactful. So I don't know, just a thought of like connecting schools to the resources that are already existing in the libraries and within the district. I'm definitely in support of those ideas.
Next hand was Aaron.
Yeah, so I just wanted to reflect back some of the things that I'm hearing in these conversations. I think there's like some really great ideas, and also put one idea out there for myself. I think I'm hearing a lot about like goals. So if we want to look at goals around literacy, goals around better connecting resources, potentially something around organizing and better connecting with parents. I'm also very interested in the conversation around like resources in the district. I know I appreciated the distinction that Celeste offered up around programs versus recommendations. And I think that it's really important that we look at how resources are being allocated and why, why our district is greatly underfunded versus many other districts in Brooklyn and throughout the city. I think it's an equity fight, and it's something that we need to like look at a broader scale. So, I think we need to do what we can do, for the short term. But, for me, part of the reason I'm here is like the longer term fight is about better distribution of resources. and a real conversation about equity. And so I'm not exactly sure how we do that as a community board, but I do think looking at those recommendations and having bigger conversations about resources is really critical to, you know, overall education quality that we're talking about. So anyways, those are just some reflections and some of my own input about like how we can start to kind of maybe shape our goals for the year. And but I love what I've been hearing so far and appreciate everyone's input.
The next hand was Celeste Chase.
So just a couple quick points, and Aaron, the idea of equity is one that I tried to address in a board meeting several years ago. I was not on the board at the time, but I was trying to figure out how funds were allocated in comparison to other community boards, and had asked for that information. I don't think it was available at the time, but it was a really important issue. Like, what is the equity? Have we been getting programs funded? How does that compare to the next district? Because if we don't know that, then our asks are pretty much meaningless, in my opinion. And so to have the equity that we need and want in the community and that we deserve because we're all paying taxes, we have to really be very forceful in that. And that may mean more than just, you know, the 12 of us on the call. It may mean, you know, demonstrations or things that are broader. But in any event, so that's a really important issue, and we all need to be mindful of that. The second one that I wanted to address, one of the points that Naomi talked about in bringing politicians and different community resources to the meetings to talk to us. I think we also need to, particularly where it's politicians, to have specific asks, because if we allow them to come to our board meetings and just kind of get platitudes, we have gained nothing. We've only given them a platform to say whatever they say. You know, a lot of times it's not much of anything, but we really need to be very intentional in asking for specific things from those politicians, because after all, we vote for them, our taxes pay for their discretionary budgets, and we need to get a piece of it as well. So those are really important issues, but it's a really good idea, as Naomi had mentioned, to bring certain people to the board, but I would say that not just bring them, but to have particular things that we want them to do, and to really do some research about kind of their backgrounds to see what kind of programs they funded, what kind of things they've done, and what they've said, so we can give their own words back to them in our ask. And also, again, we need to have the knowledge of what our community is like, what the schools are like, how they're performing in comparison to other schools, because we can't really demand equity without knowing that information as well. So those are things to think about. But I guess one of the things I just wanted to mention, I know the time is running out, is that we do need to plan for next steps, agenda, what each person is going to do, what things people as a group think are important to do. And there have been a lot of ideas, some that all of us will like and some that we will not particularly like or really want to spend our time on. But we as a group need to figure out what are kind of to advance the best ideas, or the ideas that we think are most fruitful. So I know to do a to-do list in 5 minutes is a hard thing to do, but I think that's how we need to start really thinking about it and planning it so we can be more effective.
Next hand, Elizabeth.
Okay.
So I do agree that we need to make best use of the resources that we do have. And with that being said, I do feel like a way that we can speak to various schools in the district is maybe suggesting that they do have field trips that actually go to the library, because there are many beautiful historical libraries in New York City. I think something that a lot of people do not take advantage of is now obviously the public library is giving free audiobooks. So I think if the kids are also able to connect the words to the audio, that would be really great. So I think if we start pushing more traction from the schools into libraries, that'll definitely help. And I think that's something we might need to prioritize with after school programs as well. I don't know if there's any way for us to get in touch with any after school programs in the district, but I know that a lot of them do various subject matters. And I think if we are able to push, basic skills like literacy and math to the forefront of those after school programs, that'll be a great help. I do agree that also the special ed is not being addressed, and also there's not enough special ed educators, period, within the public school system right now, as well as like paras, like one-to-ones. So I think that we might need to start planning for some way in which we can help students in need so that they can get more resources. And in terms of equity, every school has its own different budget. So maybe we can think of ways to fundraise for certain schools that are heavily under budgeted to figure out what resources they need to get them back on track to where they need to be.
Well, lovely people, the time has come to say goodbye. So what I would love for y'all to do for our next meeting, I have an idea. We meet next month. So what we can do for next month, each one of us can give your top 3 of what you want to bring to our meeting. Then we can decide, because it's 12 or 13, well, 12 or 13 of us here, we can try to differentiate where we can go with our arrow. When I say arrow, I mean with our goals, right? And we can decide what's more important. We can vote on what's not important. And then we can go from there for our second meeting. So I think 3 ideas, if everybody agrees, 3 ideas to bring to the table for next meeting. And after we bring the 3 ideas, we'll do all the administrative stuff first, and then we'll get that out the way, and then we'll discuss on how we vote on the 3 ideas. Everybody presents their 3 ideas, what they think can work, what they think they like, what they don't like, what they heard, what they want to add, what they had time to think about in a month, and then we can go from there. So if there isn't anything else, have a great night on purpose, and see you next month. Thank you for everything. And I'm glad to meet all of y'all. So have a wonderful night. Good night.